life now. My video didn't give me an option. Thank you for joining me. I'm kind of just doing an impromptu stream for the Digital Age podcast series that I'm working on in detailing out a lot of the moving parts of our digital age. And, today is part 9, but I've had plenty of other uh, streams that I've done deep diving into different aspects of where we are going. So, a big part of this is looking at the shift from analog to digital. And it's a really interesting thing to think about what is analog and should we get rid of it, and um, overall there is this huge digital acceptance that is going on, even if people do complain about it, and they will complain about it. um, it was interesting because last night I was having a discussion with my girlfriend, and we were talking about just Wi-Fi in general and the connection. And she's like, "There's this huge spot in town that I get disconnected from every single time." So it was a very interesting kind of observation of some of the sensitivity to the infrastructure that's being created with the digital technology sphere. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about social media influencers, and I have some names of people that I want to talk about. And this might be a two-part series, not unlike uh, the historical piece where I had to explain a little bit more about what was going on. However, I want to talk about some first wave influencers. Now, I created a digital timeline for my computer class. Hi, Nacier. And the timeline started with the internet, email, and with e-commerce. And so we got that out there. And then now we're going to be looking at, so in 2007, the first smartphone was launched. I think you should get 100 million subscribers. Thank you. That's really sweet. I don't know that I'll get 100 million subscribers, but um, I want the quality ones, the quality subscribers that want to hear some good information. um, so we are going to be looking at the launch of the smartphone, and then the rollout of social media. So, social media actually started before the smartphone. These two technologies merged together. Thank you for subbing. You deserve to be famous. Thank you. I'm working on being famous. I was, I've been having visions about it actually, so that's funny that you guys mentioned that. I am not married. Thank you for subbing, Luca. Open, please, you. I don't know what that means. Sorry. Um, so the as we're looking at this digital timeline and things that are rolling out, things like YouTube are rolling out, and YouTube did not um, rise until later. But first, it started with MySpace, and that was in, scarily enough, 2003. So it's a little over, what's that, 22 years old. So it's been around for a long time. Well, MySpace is still around actually. It got sold 10 years ago or something like that. Some company purchased it, even though like it's not one of those name brand. Even though it was a first early adopter, it didn't hold or carry the same kind of weight that Facebook did. So Facebook came out in 2004, And adopting to that, it took a lot of people a long time to determine whether or not they were going to have these social media identities online. A lot of people were hesitant to adopt into it. And when I say adopt into it, that means like, okay, it's okay to have this. So, uh, you know, Facebook came out and people are on there just kind of being really silly. The internet, the early internet was just kind of this wild, wild west, wild, wild world wide web. And like a lot of people were using it for serious things like here's this conspiracy, or they were using it for news, or even like putting all of this information in there and sharing it via email. And early emails, I remember them so well, they're really funny. they were these they were these like really long jokes. Like we have memes now that we can just like, this is a picture and we can put some things in it, and delivered it delivers the message in this like, little thumbnail caption. But back in the early internet days, the early email days, it was like this whole long stream of this conversation that we were having. So, really enveloping this into what we're looking at as far as social media influencers. Oh, you're so sweet. Have a nice day. Can I have a shout out in helping others out? Luca, thank you so much for helping others out. I like that. Um, okay, so moving on into what influencers look like today, uh, YouTube was a huge moving body to make that happen. So we're going to talk about some of the early one-time influencers, the single influencers, the early ones. So we're looking at the timeline between 2008 and 2016. So these people were not necessarily promoting products, but they were kind of mapping this consciousness of what is going on in the internet and connecting with people from around the world. Like it just opened this whole social um, world to everybody. Where people from, I don't know where you guys are from, but I know I have a lot of people that watch me from India, and some people from Pakistan, some people from Europe, some people from just different areas of the world, that they're able to tune into me on this platform. And imagine back in, like, over what, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, your social influence was like only people that you would see face to face at one time. And now, so with the invention and release of Facebook and then YouTube and other social media platforms, now a person and their identity can go out into the world. And then people like Nasir here, who says that he loves me or she loves me, is like, able to have this communication with me. And when the Facebook opened up, it was you started connecting with just people that you knew. It was like almost this kind of conditioning experiment. Okay, connect with people that you know. And now Facebook has blossomed into what is now called the Meta, which also includes Instagram. So now they're both a part of the same company. But Facebook, it's not just people that you know. Now it's expanded into other influencers that you may know, other business owners that you may know or not know. And so now you have all of this connection with people. I kind of talked about this in the digital dating part of the series, where I was talking about, usually it's just whoever's in your immediate group. So friends, family that you hang out with, people that you're going to dinner parties with, people if you go and you're part of like a rec league game company or system, like with your local team, that's how you're out meeting people. If you go hiking, if you have a hobby, like any of these things, that is the traditional way that we were meeting people and finding potential partners, finding new friendships, and everything like that. And now we have the ability to do it all online. So it's removed this analog nature of that. So the big thing with social media influencers is they're digitizing relatability. And that was what happened in the early timeline of social influencing. It wasn't necessarily monetized at the time, although I think there were mechanisms in place that did monetize people eventually to where, if they have a certain number of followers or subscribers to their channel, they might have a certain number of influence. And because of that influence, then these brands are going to come in and say, hey, I want you to represent my brand. Will you do that? And we'll talk a little bit about that as well, because that does definitely go into the social media influence. Jerusha! You're so sweet. Okay, so there, the early influencers were offering this mirror of connect with me. Even in my one of my classes, we were watching this video. It was a Megan Kelly excerpt of this lady who she was on Facebook, and she took a picture of her dishes, and they were just dirty dishes everywhere. And she said, "This is what depression looks like." And she posted it on Facebook, and it was almost like this last call for help of, I don't know what to do. I feel overwhelmed. I'm depressed, and I don't feel like I'm, living up to my purpose. And so, she used this platform, Facebook, to reach a huge audience. She got an overwhelming amount of support of other like minded people who also had the same issues going on, the dishes not getting done, the house not being clean, the not feeling that she's living up to her duties as a mother, and just being overwhelmed and feeling stuck in that. So all of these people that had these similar kind of uh, things going on in their life, they were like, that is so relatable. You're gonna be okay. And so it became this overwhelming amount of support to where she now is able to pull herself out of that, because she was able to identify the problem, look at the symptoms of what was going on, and then connect with others in that way. Lots of sketchy stuff going on with the Wi Fi. My Wi Fi? Or your Wi Fi? Because mine, I think it looks really nice. I've got 3 bars and a full Wi-Fi signal. Um, so the thing about these early adopters is that um, they were almost over polished. It was not connected first wave, like Perez Hilton. Or Paris Hilton, I think, is probably a good other first wave. With reality TV, we haven't talked about that, but the influencers kind of mimic this celebrity profile by creating their own celebrity profile, which is it's okay, but then there's some things about it that we'll kind of talk about here in the later in the broadcast. So this experiment that went out, that is Facebook, that is YouTube, that is all these other platforms where people kind of build this community of people. um, those are how they influence. People are drawn to it, they'll subscribe, they'll connect, they want to hear more about what that person is saying. And so, some of the early on examples of this was Tavi Gevinson. So this was a 13-year-old fashion blogger, and she presented herself with an identity of wisdom beyond her years, and kind of was the rise of teen, like she was the voice of the teens of this is how to dress. And um, she was entering these adult spaces, which were typically like YouTube, and there's a lot of debate on whether or not 13-year-olds should be, on social media when they're so young and developing their self, to be presenting that identity of their teenage years to people online and subjecting themselves to adult spaces, meaning adults have a lot more experience and wisdom, and 13-year-olds kind of have that, but maybe not so much. And so she had gained legitimacy from fashion houses and her digital peers. But because of her maturing and feeling burnout and shifting to a more traditional media, it kind of erased that identity that she originally presented her audience with, and kind of like muted her. And I think I talked about it in my last digital, um, in part 8. I was talking about how like listening to AI is just listening to what the average is, and then there's no real outlier. There's no real novelty in that. And so when you moved from this like untraditional space of kind of chaos and excitement, like chaos is a little exciting, and it's filled with innovation and ideas and all that stuff. Moving from that into this like traditional media space of, it kind of mutes that authenticity, it mutes that individuality that people will pursue in what they're connecting with on social media platforms, the things that they're watching, the things that they're listening to. So Jenna Marbles is another um, one-time influencer, and she was kind of like YouTube's court gesture. Okay, she was the queen of self-deprecating behavior. She made being weird and messy and sincere look cool, and millions of people followed her. There's millions of people that will show up when you're, that's, I don't know what it is, the self-deprecation behavior. My son watches these kind of YouTube videos all the time where, it's talking about, oh, this social media influencer, I can't remember his name, but there's ones that, they started out and they were doing all of these ASMR eating challenges, and then um, years later, that eating habit like caught up with them, and now they're, experiencing health issues and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of interesting to see like what people are drawn to. They want to see people, like, I will admit, like, I like to watch people eat. I watched this lady called Raina is Crazy, and she's like, she does all these eating challenges everywhere. And so it's interesting watching her eat. I'm just like, how does she maintain her figure and then also like eat that much, as much food as she's eating? I watch it because there is like a certain novelty to it. So Jenna is tapping into this novelty that people followed because she made it feel safe and silly in her chaotic world. And her decline came because she got canceled over old videos, and then she voluntarily steps back, and the so she experienced a lot of cancel culture, even though she like put herself out there, and who knows if that was her true identity, but she put this identity out there of being weird and messy and showing authenticity. And then, cancel culture came out. I think that was in like 2014 is when that really truly started. And she just couldn't maintain her space in that arena. Then Brandon Stanton is another one. It turned micro storytelling into emotional cathedrals. Um, so he captured unfiltered humanity in a world of filters. But his decline came because of the saturation. So there's a lot of people that once momentum starts going, like a lot of people are going to like, kind of follow in those footsteps. So it really is these early adopters and first wave names that can really truly ride a wave in these big ideas. But the growth of in algorithms, so algorithms really got their stake in their place in the digital age timeline around 2015, 2016. So he suffered algorithmic drowning and saturation, and now like you've got so much content out there that you can watch and get your dopamine hits from that he kind of just declined into nowhere. A lot of these one timers have their rise in fame, or their 15 minutes, as you want to as you may know it, have it be known as. And then once their nervous system hits a certain level, they can't hold it anymore. And so it's like, okay, now I'm going to sink in, which one of my people will talk about that. Um, so Danielle Bernstein has the handle We Wore What. Was one of the first to turn fashion blogging into this brand empire. So fashion blogging, makeup blogging, and there's so many other like type of video blogs or vlogs as they're called, where people just build these empires out of trying out different name brand stuff. I know that there's fashion, they'll like wear certain things or like design their fashion statements and show people online. I'm sure you've seen the reels, or maybe it's not in your feed, but I get a lot of makeup bloggers that they come through, or like they're promoting these hair devices, or they're promoting travel venues and how to travel. And so, our algorithms are kind of getting personalized to what are you liking, what are you scrolling on, how are you engaging with the content. So um, Danielle had mastered early monetization before the influencer marketing strategy was formalized. So when we talk early adopters, this is like one of the people that I'm talking about. Um, the decline here happened because she was too branded. She lost her voice and became a part of the corporate machine. When you take on, as an influencer, when you take on brands, you lose a little bit of your authenticity, you lose a little bit of your identity to the brand corporation that it's being held under. So let's say that Amelie gets a corporate branding partnership with, let's see, like Airbnb. So now I have this contract with Airbnb, and now I'm going to promote. This is it. I don't have a contract with Airbnb, by the way, but let's just pretend. So now I have this contract with Airbnb, and Airbnb is like, we really like the messaging that you're giving, and we really like you delivering that, and we enjoy that you're now traveling to different Airbnbs and doing your videos and connecting with your audience in the Airbnbs and promoting that, as part of the contract that we've signed. Let's say we're paying you $50,000 for the whole year to like continue to promote the brand and be a voice of our company. However, um, don't talk about the digital age anymore. Don't talk about Airbnb or Airbnb like companies like Verbo and all these other companies. Don't talk about how they've affected the housing market. You, don't, you We'll just not talk about that. Um, so it starts to silence your individual thoughts and your voice when you start taking on these brands, which with Danielle Bernstein, that happened. So when you start assigning yourself these contracts with these corporate companies, you lose part of your voice to placate their direction, their bottom line. You're bringing in money for them, but you're also like, when you take that money, there's this energy exchange of your voice to their brand. Okay. Same thing could happen with Facebook. You might have a Facebook agreement or a Pinterest agreement or whatever contracts you're signing. When you start getting these corporate brand offers, it sounds great. Oh yeah, great, $50,000. That's awesome, right? But you lose a little bit of your identity. The thing that there's this trade off of voice to brand, basically. Next, the last one that we're going to talk about is we have Asina O'Neill, Instagram model turned whistleblower, deleted 2,000 posts of photos, exposing the illusion of all of what it means to be an Instagram model. Um, she also was saying and trying to warn that, hey, this isn't real. There's nothing authentic about being an Instagram model. It's performance. It's performance designed to draw you in, and but it's not real. It's an illusion. Like, you're warned. And so her decline came because she couldn't hold that paradox of the identity that she was holding and carrying online and aligning that into her nervous system. She couldn't be two people. So in her personal life, she had a certain identity. Online, she had a certain identity, and she couldn't hold it. And that is from uh, a nervous system situation, and also people like consistency. They like consistency in their personal lives, and I've always trying to have the ultimate consistency in my own life, even though I know that being inconsistent is the better choice for me. So I hold many different paradoxes, and I can kind of move into those paradoxes. One, because I'm a human design reflector, and that is like the personality of shape shifting. I'm able to wear these different types of personalities and not feel confined by them or like feel inconsistent in my inconsistencies. But a lot of people aren't designed that way. It's difficult for them to hold these two paradoxes. So she turned whistleblower, tried to blow the whole thing, and like left the internet. She was just like, F this, throw all the papers up into the proverbial papers into the air, and I'm out. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't want to be your monkey. And she tried to re enter quietly, but it wasn't with as much impact as she had. So there's a lot of things that go into being able to be an influencer and hold that with awareness and clarity and a calm nervous system. You've got to be able to really look at things for what they are and not be held in the illusions of what they are, right? So some of the things that happen to these influencers, and maybe we'll have some time to talk about the bigger part of it, is I want to talk about what happens when you are an influencer. So one thing that can happen is the platform that you're on can betray you, okay? The, like, in the beginning, the algorithms were not as sophisticated as they are now. So the algorithms will shift and it will favor engagement over the authenticity that you hold. So when I first started live streaming, I started live streaming on Facebook. And I was part of this MLM company, and it was great. Like, I have no complaints. It was exactly what I needed. I didn't really want this huge business. I just needed an outlet for creativity, and this MLM was providing that for me, right? So as I started, it was in 2018. The algorithms were just beginning to form. It was kind of becoming a buzzword at the time. And so to get the engagement, to build, like, I still wanted to build my following, I wanted to build my business, and I was doing it all on Facebook because Facebook is, for all of its quirks and things that we don't like about it, it also is a great place to establish business communities, communities of like minded people where you're connecting in a group with people that have the same interests as you do. So for me, I have a lot of weird cosmology and pineal glands and third eyes, and like I'm following all of these different groups, and in my feed, like I'll get really interesting information from that. So Facebook, for all of its things that we don't like about it, it does have this really nice aspect of community connecting and building. So here I am in 2018, and algorithm is barely a buzzword at the time, but the main name of the game is consistency. If you want to increase your followers, be consistent, post daily, be authentic. Don't sit there and that's why the way that do my streams, it's kind of just raw and authentic, and you get all the ums and the likes and whatever I say that's weird and some of the weird quirky behaviors that I have, but you're getting an authentic version of me in my teaching role, my delivering information that I've gathered and that I'm seeing and presenting it to you. And in that, as a caveat to that, I'm learning a lot more about the information that I'm delivering to you because I have to research it before I sit here and deliver it to you. So the platform betrayal happens when there's these shifting of algorithms. So the algorithm is now kind of this ship that you like can guide a little bit, but you have to be able to, or maybe it's like a wave that you have to like, are you going to be able to get on the crest of that wave and ride it safely and get to the other side, and then hop on the next wave? Algorithms are kind of like that. They're just these waves of trend following. So you've got to be able to engage with the algorithm in order to get the engagement that you're looking for. For me, I'm happy with whomever is here. Like anybody who's here is here because they want to pay attention. They want to hear the message that I'm delivering. And I prefer that over people that are just going to like the stream and not engage with it. I want quality over quantity, if that makes any sense. So these first time, like within that platform betrayal, you're also dealing with um, that they can't adapt to the sacrificing of their original frequency. So if you're unable to adapt, and in that adaptation, you're sacrificing your authenticity, your individuality, your identity. Hi, Mike. Mike's here. I appreciate my mic. Um, if you're here and if you're an influencer and you're unable to adapt without losing sight of who you truly are and continue to be aware of that, this extends beyond platform influencing, okay? This is just being an influencer in your own life. If you're going to get drowned out and become a basic bitch and be like lost in the drama or the gimmicks, like my son, he doesn't really watch it, but he's watched it before, is like Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast is like 100% gimmicky. Like if you watch it, it's weird. Other people, like when they rise into these influencer positions, they don't have the nervous system regulation to like avoid the drama, so they're like attacking other people. It would be like me if I let's imagine for a moment that, I rise and I have, let's say 1 million followers, like the beautiful whomever it was earlier in the stream was saying, that if I had like like 1 million followers or 100 million followers or however many, and then I start looking around and I'm like, oh, Teal Swan, whatever, like I'm gonna start picking a fight with you. Not that she would, in her regulated nervous system, engage in that, but it would be like, okay, now I'm gonna fight you, and now I'm gonna fight all these other, like, I'm just gonna start drama with all of these other people instead of focusing on myself. Like, I'm gonna start attacking others to promote myself. So you can get drowned out by engaging in that drama, engaging in these gimmicks. Um, one of the gimmicks I see is like the ASMR eating a bunch of food, or another gimmick is like eating disgusting food and then just constantly doing that online. I think his name is Peebs. He's this YouTuber who he'll like eat different like go and get like different ramen noodles or get different fast food things and do kind of this comparison stuff, but he's like eating all this food that he doesn't really necessarily want to eat, but it's kind of his gimmick to do this and do it online. So he's got his gimmick. And then the other thing that we kind of talked about before is getting drowned out by those brand names. So the mega brand that's coming in, like I had done with Airbnb. Like if I'm in a contract with Airbnb, they're going to tell me, don't talk about the housing market, how, you know, messed up it is. We just want you to promote our brand, and we're watching the things that you're saying. And so, watch the things that you're saying that you're not doing anything to jeopardize our bottom line. So, like I said, there's a little bit of a trade off when you start to um, either put your energy into drama, put your energy into gimmicks. Now you have to continue finding gimmicks, or even putting your energy into focusing on being a brand spectacle for these big corporate companies. So, the other thing that I want to talk about, and I talk about this quite often, is the nervous system support that it takes to be these influential leaders. So, you'll see a lot of people kind of fall out and decline or get canceled, and they do that because they cannot hold themselves in their nervous system when other people are tearing them down, other people are criticizing them. Like they don't have enough self worth in order to say, no, what you're saying is not true. I'm not going to be affected by you. So these pioneers, they had zero models of what was going on. They're early adopters, they're early, like, delivering these unique models to the social media culture as a whole. And so they had no mentors, no tools. Not a lot of people are really hip on how important your nervous system is, or even like being regulated. I know when I was growing up, it wasn't taught to me. It was like you were told to be a certain way, and it was like if you didn't align with that, then there's something wrong with you. And, to whatever extent, maybe there was, but you can't just tell somebody. You've got to like kind of show them, okay, here's here's how you become a little bit more regulated. But back then, there's no mentors, and even for service nervous system regulation, there is no mentors out there. There's just people that say, "Oh, here's the nervous system, cool." Um, and then the other thing is having these sudden waves of fame and the intimacy that comes into that, like people when you start rising up, people start looking at you a little bit deeper. And now our whole identity profile since Facebook are basically online. Like you can Google search people, you can do background checks on people pretty easily. And so when you rise to fame, a lot of the privacy and intimacy that you usually are able to sit in is now um, suddenly being broke open. There's a lot of light and a lot of eyes and a lot of of people focusing now on you, and you might not be able to hold that. You might have a fear of being seen, and it's a real fear. Being seen, public speaking, that kind of stuff is those are very interesting fears that people hold. And then with fame, there does come this relentlessness from the public. You're going to be scrutinized. People are going to challenge you. They're going to test you. Can you hold yourself in this? Um, Celebrities are very good at like separating themselves from this. They're able to be in the public eye. They're able to hold themselves in their own identity and truth, whatever that looks like. It doesn't matter if they just have a certain level of their own personal regulation. They have mentors, they have people around them, their entourage that support them, that, are their close connections. And so they're able to handle and regulate whatever the relentlessness is. And, early Jerusha brought up Perez Hilton, and I'm thinking of Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton was one of these first iconic reality TV stars, and I can't remember the name of her show. I never watched it, but um, her and her friend Nicole like go onto this show, and they're just going to everyday American homes and existing in those areas, and they're like broadcasting it on reality TV, and I'm sure a lot of people were calling her all kinds of names, and she was just like unyielding to any of it. She didn't care. Like Cardi B, for all that is really good at this. I remember that she was doing this. She was she was getting an award for something, and she was doing her acceptance speech, and she was thanking people, and she's like, first of all, I want to thank all my haters because my haters were the ones that were getting all my music and downloading it that gave me this award. So she is able to regulate herself, even with all the whatever in the public eye, and able to hold herself to handle the fame and the relentlessness of her haters by really looking at it in a lens of gratitude. You know, thanks for hating me and for downloading my albums or my songs or whatever. I don't know if they do anymore, but so a lot of these influencers may experience also what is called um, they can have a parasocial collapse, meaning what they feel that they're socially connected to. There's multiple forms of this, and it all collapses, and they're unable to hold it. They're unable to contain it. They might have digital overstimulation, meaning they have to come up with content, and because they have to come up with so much content, now they're just overstimulated and unable to really hold their nervous system and have it not collapse. And then finally, there's an energetic fragmentation that goes on with that too. So I had a final that I was working on, and I was talking about um, so with our attention in an analog system, let's say that the digital world doesn't exist. In an analog system, You have your internal world, which is the world that's within yourself, this beautiful inner sanctuary, and you have your gardens, and however you want to lay out what your inner world looks like. Mine's got lots of pretty flowers and cute things and water. And it's very etheric and mystical and very blue. There's a lot of blue in it. So I have this really rich inner world, okay? And then our bodies are automatically processing the external stimuli and looking at that from a cognitive function in our mind. We're always scanning our environment, even if it's involuntary. We're scanning the environment. So we're scanning our internal environment, we're scanning our external environment, and that is an analog form of how we're receiving stimuli scientifically in our minds. This is how it's working. We're constantly perceiving, we're giving attention and peripheral attention to things. We are uh, listening for auditory stimulus. We're listening for, we're seeing visual stimulus, and we're constantly doing that just involuntarily as humans. That's how our biological function is. Okay. Now, when we add the digital world into it, it fragments your energy. So now instead of just focusing on the external world and the internal world, now the external world is splitting into, I have to pay attention to the physical world and give whatever attention I normally would give it. And also now I am giving attention to my digital world, meaning social media notifications, phone calls, texts, um, tweets, notifications from your other social medias, emails that are coming in. Um, you can start to see the pattern here. And that is like splitting your external and your digital focus. Now you're like kind of subpar in both of these categories. And that's what energetic fragmentation is now your brain is not only trying to root out all the things that are happening in your physical plane, but now in the digital plane. Now you have all of this stuff. And if you think about it, if you're, this is why I won't ever wear one of those watches. I know that they're designed to be like really nice and biometrically scanning your body. That's awesome. But I literally know that my boundary, my energetic boundary here is that I need to have downtime from the digital space. I need time to really sit in my analog system so that I can process and I go to the digital system when I'm ready and I know I have enough energy and I have enough focus to give it, you know, what I need and not just have it have it be me be plugged into that instead of into myself or the external world. So really being aware of that. I mean, this was a really profound lesson that I learned in this last week is how fragmented our energy just in attention alone is when we are plugging into this. So these pioneers that, you know, as they're becoming these social media influencers, they don't know what the effects are of, you know, constantly plugging into the digital sphere, constantly looking at, oh my gosh, do I have enough likes today on my video? I need to get at least 500,000 likes on this or 50,000 likes on this or whatever the numbers are in order to feel safe in my nervous system. If I see a decline in viewers, it means that that's like a personal attack on me, and now I don't feel safe in my nervous system. So they didn't have these mentors to really show them how to navigate these systems. And then over time, viewership changes. Like it happens all the time on my videos here. When I first started, I'd maybe get one or two people. Maybe I got a blossoming. Um, a large amount of people came in and watched. But it's, you know, I'm not looking at that as an external validation of my message here. my message I'm giving through flow state and authenticity, and I don't have any brand sponsorships. I am only connecting to whomever is here because they're connecting to my message. They want to hear what it is. So, not knowing that that evolution can happen, those audience changes can happen, um, I think the early users were really looking for connection, even though it was kind of crazy that they had, let's say they had hundreds of millions of followers like PewDiePie or Mr. Beast or, I can't think of any others that had a lot. Those are the two that come to my mind. Um, if you want connection, like you can only, I think the number, if I remember correctly, of how many people you can actually have relationships with is around 200 people. That includes your family, your friends, associates, like people that you work with, and maybe even some like kind of tertiary parties of people that you have to connect with. Um, there's only really 200 that you can have any good quality of relationship with. And even then, like, shorten it down to like who are your closest friends, family, partners, anything like that, like your spouse or whomever, your children, like it's even smaller than that of who you can give your attention to. So when you have these huge spaces of community of bodies of people that are subscribing or following or engaging with you, um, you might want that attention, but it really it's a numbers game. Um, so the early users wanted connection, but the later influencers, they really actually wanted escape or entertainment or outrage. Like they're feeding on the outrage culture. They're feeding on, am I entertaining my audience? Is is my audience enjoying my content? Is this an escape? So, yeah, we moved quite a bit from early relationships to later relationships. Um, so the other thing I want to talk about is these influencers were affected by capitalism. Okay, and what do I mean by that? We were talking about brands earlier. So these later influencers now began to turn into ad space, and they became their merch machines. And you've seen this if you ever scrolled on, let's say, Instagram. If you scroll on Instagram, like almost every other feed is some sort of ad that is targeting you. Like it's targeting you. And we're going to talk about some of the ways that it does that. I don't want to do it too long today because I have another thing that I want to do today. But um, and like I said, I might have to separate this into two. We'll see if I can, but I might have to separate into two podcasts. But they essentially become these lifestyle decks of, you know, let's say not only do I have Airbnb, but maybe Delta Airlines is now sponsoring me, and they're like, we want you to travel around and show how cool the Delta Lounge is, and influence these people. The funny thing is, like, I've looked into becoming some sort of like brand marketer of what I enjoy, which is traveling. I like traveling, so I'm using it as an example. But what I found was interesting. So instead of looking for people with millions or even thousands of followers, they're actually wanting to look for people that have around 15 to 1500 to 3000 followers. They want more intimate influencers to share their brand with their followers because it's more potent. There's more authenticity. So these brands are essentially feeding off of your individuality, of your authenticity when you're creating these contracts with them. So, and they're feeding off of that. It's like you're living the dark crystal or something, right? Like the Skeksis are coming and they're just sucking the souls out of you, um, in order to like promote their brands, to promote their merchandise or their services or whatever it happens to be. So you really have to look at what your gifts are. Are you going to um, commodify all of your gifts, all of your authenticity, all of your individuality, and lose part of your identity to becoming these huge influencers that don't have that, like, make basically Ariel, the Little Mermaid, your voice out of you. Like, that's literally what it is. You can look at these brand companies as Ursula coming in and saying, "Give me your voice, and I'll give you money or your dreams or whatever that looks like." You don't have to do it that way. Like, there's different ways to becoming successful in life without having to give up your identity, give up your voice, and become a part of that clerky culture where you're just like this sales face, and eventually, like, the soul gets sucked out of you because you're like, oh my gosh, my nervous system is not regulated for this. Now I'm gonna leave and not gonna. I'm just burnt out from having to do this for this company all the time. I just don't feel that. Okay, so I'm at 56 minutes here. I have more notes that I want to discuss. There's so much that goes into this, and I might have to separate it out. So essentially, I am going to be on a little bit later talking about my product, which is a soul map for you guys. I'm going to share my soul map with you, and it's an instrument that I'm going to be providing. So if you're interested in having your soul map, it's basically looking at your human design, your gene keys, and then your uh, stelliums that are possibly in your astrology chart, and looking at that and really confining it down to what is your magic and ability here. All right, let's talk about the spiritual cost of selling your soul, though. Selling yourself. So, we kind of talk about that brand and how that brand, um, not just takes your soul, but it like becomes something that now you have to serve. And so you're taking an identity, and a lot of people do this. You hear it constantly now, at least I do, is I am creating my personal brand, right? So basically, you're taking one of your identities and you're kind of like selling it to be the slave to whatever the corporate market wants you to do. Um, there's also this interesting thing that's going on, which is called an AI deepfake. And I remember when this came out years ago, it was interesting. It kind of shocked me into my core a little bit because I was like, that doesn't feel right. But basically, I think the earliest time I could see this happening was in Futurama. So in Futurama, in the earlier episodes, there was one that was like something about emoticon. And so all the celebrities have their heads in these like little vase chambers. And it was all like 2000s celebrities at the time. So Lucy Liu is, she's one of the, oh my gosh, what are those ladies called? um, the Angels, Charlie's Angels. And she's also part of these other, like, she's a big celebrity at this time. And so they're promoting her in this Futurama show. And um, they're looking at her and they're using her identity and they're using her identity to create these like robot girlfriends, which that's come true, right? But her likeness is being used, her voice is being used, and she's like, I'm suing you guys. You can't do this. But so I'm just like thinking of that as I'm looking at these AI deepfakes. And yeah, it can be used for humor and funny, but so is the internet, so is email to a certain degree. Like, these platforms, these digital platforms, they start out silly. It's a great way to have people adopt them. So when AI deepfakes started coming out, and I saw that they were developing technology to mimic um, your likeness, your voice, everything like that, it was a cause of concern. But I just remember that Futurama episode and how that was a discussion. So now, even more to add to that AI deepfake is that there's a huge push right now for people to grow their AI, grow AI in their business. I wouldn't want to be famous. I think AI is going to be bad. It's not going to all be bad. It's just a reflection of your inner world. So the the deep fakes have gone this far. So I had a friend I was talking to, and they were telling me that they're at work. They work for a startup company. That their lead sales guy, so whomever is in charge, I don't remember what his title was, but let's just use lead sales guy for this discussion. That lead sales guy would come in for 5 minutes and be on video for 5 minutes, and from that 5 minute video, AI is basically able to take it over and create this whole hour long video. And if your eye is untrained and you're not noticing some of the inconsistencies that happen in AI deepfakes, it's going to be really hard for you to notice. It really is taking advantage of, there's a thing in perception where even if something bizarre is happening in a situation, whatever you're focusing on is like what your attention is. So the periphery things could be happening, but you're not noticing it as much as you would be. Um, there's a famous video, and I'm sorry if you haven't seen it. Just pause and whatever. But there's this famous video of all these people that are dancing around and moving around, and like the task is to like count how many people are count how many people are doing whatever, holding a ball or something like that. And in the video, so pause if you don't want to hear the thing, but in the video, there is a guy in a gorilla suit just walking across the video through the dancers. But your focus is on whatever they've directed you to focus on. So most people don't even notice the gorilla, even though they're all dressed in white and the gorilla's in a gorilla suit walking around. It's bizarre. A lot of people are not going to truly focus on the gorilla. They're going to be focused on whatever task at hand is. And that is the situation I see kind of with these deep fakes is AI, even though it's mimicking your likeness and mimicking your voice, that there is going to be something disingenuous with it that you're not going to be connecting with. You're basically kind of building these digital paper uh, bodies. So this can come, celebrities. Some of them have agreed to have their likeness used. A lot of, like, thankfully, like, consent does come with this, but with all of these companies adopting this mechanism into um, giving efficiency in their business so that they can go do other things, is going to lose a lot of the authenticity that comes in. Like, my videos will never be um, AI. Like, I just can't do that. It's not in my value and in my sphere of influence, like how I want to deliver my messages to you. They're always going to be raw, they're always going to be authentic. Because I appreciate that as part of my own, not that it's a brand, but that's just part of my own value structure. The other thing of this spiritual cost of selling yourself, aside from the AI deepfakes, is that you have these synthetic influencers. So people that come on and just because they have a certain look or a certain face or a certain behavior style, um, that they are willing to sell that fake identity, that fakeness, to a brand, corporate brand, and then sell whatever the product is in order to make money. Like, they're just ready to have that fake influence. And then the other thing is there's a loss of energetic originality. Like I said, so I think I said it in my last video, but our ability to create and create in an authentic measure is one of the things that make us uniquely human, that make us uniquely higher minded, that AI at the moment is unable to replicate. So when you lose that energetic originality, when you lose that ability to create things that are authentic and that honor your individuality and that are connecting with people in a truly relatable fashion, that loss of energetic originality can feel like you've sold your soul, like you've sold a piece of you, and it will be a little difficult to get back. So one of the takeaways of, as I'm talking about this brand connection, this social influence, a lot of people are doing it because it's a great way to make money and to make a lot of money with doing, little, what is perceived as little work. There's a lot of work that actually goes into developing yourself as somebody that is of influence. And so the the thing that, if you want to take back, that these people that I was talking about, that were these one-time influencers, if you're going to want to kind of reestablish yourself back in your soul, back in your identity, back in your authenticity, you're going to have to look at, how do I reclaim my voice? How do I reclaim my image? And how do I stand in my sovereign integrity, in my spiritual integrity, where I'm connected not only with my inner self, but I'm able to kind of manipulate the external stimuli, whether it's coming from the physical world or the digital world. I'm able to manipulate that to stop it and really just be quiet in my own self. Like, you've got to have the sovereignty in your own body. You've got to have these, it's not just physical boundaries, guys, it's energetic boundaries. You've got to be able to control your inner walls. You've got to be able to put the structure up around you to protect who you are as a person. Now, if you are disconnected from it, um, th- there's many ways to do that. This is what I am working on in my business. So if you want to work with me and really just learn how, like, if you're feeling disconnected and you're feeling like you don't even really belong, or you're separated from your body or whatever, like, if you have a true desire to reconnect with that, please reach out to me and let me know. The bigger takeaway here is, don't let your frequency be for sale. Okay. Our frequency is for transmitting. We're transmitting these energetic messages out from within and not taking from out and putting it in, because it's just going to puppet you. It's going to, like, the external validation of the physical world or the external validation of the digital world. If you're trying to validate your identity and who you are, and um, basically toying around with your soul, your sovereignty, your identity, it's going to come at a cost. There's going to be a little bit of mental toll that happens to you, and I've seen it. So I have a really close friend, known him for 20 years, and he didn't sell his soul to social media influencing, but he did sell his soul to, or his agency at least, to his one of his parents, ultimately forcing him into all these decisions: who to marry, where to go to school, what to go to school for, what career to have, what to, like, everything. Like, a lot of his decisions were dictated by the tyranny of a parent. And he couldn't hold that. His nervous system couldn't hold that. And because all of this really important decision making was being farmed out to the parent, this tyrannical parent that's like, you must be like me, or you must be like who I want you to be, um, removing that decision making, which is a big cognitive function in our minds, um, caused him to not be able to hold himself, and he basically lost it, split. His mind split. His connection to himself split. He didn't have any more connection to himself, and was diagnosed with dissociative personality disorder, what we might know as schizophrenia. Like, these are real things that I'm talking about. They're very deep, they're very penetrative, and um, monetizing your identity is going to come at a cost for you. So how are you learning to manage that? How what cognitive functions are you currently farming out? What agency are you farming out that is losing a connection with yourself? Yeah, wow, is it, like, when I think about it, it makes me really sad. That's my friend. That's my friend. And, like, I've lost a part of my friend. It's serious. These people aren't just, like, subjecting themselves to cancel culture. They're unable to hold their true identity in their soul, in their hands. Like, if you're not connected, you're subject to these things. It's a very, very serious situation. Okay, let's see. 73 minutes. Trying to think if there's something else I want to deliver to you guys. So, one of the other things I really want to speak into before I might do another second part of this, but this influencer age, which is, roughly 8 to 10 years. I mean, we kind of still see it now, but it's being transformed a little bit into. I might do another one tonight. I have my normal podcast tomorrow, but I might do another one tonight. It depends on how soon I can get my soul map video made, and that one will be live too. I'm just going to go over what that looks like so that I can post it on my website. But um, so we have this influencer age that, started in, I mean, some can argue it started with reality TV, where celebrities and like the real world was creating all these celebrities, like from nowhere, basically. Um, the influencer age, it's in its original form is over, and it's shifting. It's kind of going to the end of this influencer age, because that now they're looking at smaller groups of people who have, and when I say smaller groups, like people that have 3,000 followers or maybe even less, like 1,500 followers. They're looking at engaging with these people to promote their stuff. So let's say you're just getting started out, and uh, you're a gym influencer, and you're working in the health field, and you're doing some sort of challenge. Maybe you're you know losing 100 pounds or whatever, and that's your whole thing. And so now you're like posting your story and your journey. You might have somebody that, like Nike, or all these online companies that reach out to you. What's happening now, just with algorithms, is basically when you're engaging in social media, like they're able to, it's not just like what you buy, did the thing go through. They're looking at, are you going to scroll up? I don't know if you've ever been, it's almost like they can predict the future you, of the future your decision. And the technology is getting to a point of where it almost can, like, with not 100% accuracy, but there is a huge influence in this algorithm being able to detect, are you going to buy this? Are you going to buy that? Are you going to stop and read this? And maybe you've even been on websites where you clicked on it, and then you kind of like looked a little bit, and then you went to go close it, and it's like, wait, don't go yet. That's how that's how influential this new technology is. So when we're looking at the economy and that influence, they're not necessarily needing people, like everyday people, to sell their identities to them anymore. Right now, they're able to, through data collection. So you may or may not know that your data is being collected if you're on YouTube, or you're on, like, even if you don't have an account, you don't know that they're not watching and like following what you're doing there. So when we look at that, I'm gonna find my notes here of the basically this transfiguration of what medial influence is. Um, they're basically able. So I'm trying to remember the name of the study, but it was looking at it looked at Great Britain, the USA, and I think Canada. And they were looking. They had samples of people from each country, and each country, it was a little over 1,000 people that they were looking into. And so they had these people, and they were asking, do you like it when, basically, the assessments of like, do you like it when you have personalization? And then what their feelings of privacy were. And I talk about trade-off quite often, because there is a trade-off. So if you're enjoying personalization, let's say you like it when Safeway gives you a notification letting you know, hey, the new advertisement for this week has dropped. Like, come in and check out the deals. And we've personalized the deals for you based on what your purchasing background is, like what you've purchased from us, what you typically purchase. We're going to put that at the top and have it be really personalized for you. So it really removes a little bit of privacy where before I could just go in with cash, go buy whatever, pay with cash, nobody knows it's really me. Now they have these ways of tracking my purchases because now I'm using online digital coupons and um, I'm using my, debit card or my credit card to make these purchases. So now they're able to kind of follow me and target exactly like what they think I'm going to buy. And the they can detect with decent accuracy. I don't know what the percentage is, but with decent accuracy like what you're going to purchase online. Um, I brought it up. I think it was in maybe part 4 of the digital series. It's talking about how Amazon had created algorithms that with somewhere in the 90% accuracy, that anything that you've added to cart, they like know exactly when you're going to do it, and they already have a robot going to pull that item to start boxing it. So they've developed this really deep, not just knowing when you're going to add to cart, but then also this manufacturing and logistics process that makes it very efficient to get you your things. So now we have what, 2-day Prime for the most part. Most of us can get things in 2 days if we have a Prime account with Amazon. Um, that's actually pretty awesome and interesting, and for we take it for granted, but it also like comes at a cost. Now all of our money that would be flowing through our local economy is going into this big company that is a corporate giant. So yeah. I'm at 81 minutes. I think I'm gonna call it for today, and then I'll do another one later. I have a pool party to go to, but I appreciate you guys coming in and showing up. Um, if you have not yet, please subscribe. Um, I think I might be a little bit late tomorrow, depending on how long I have an appointment at 10:30. So depending on how long that is, right after that appointment, I'll come on and deliver my weekly podcast. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this, and I will do a part 2. I'll see if I do it later tonight. Otherwise, it might be tomorrow. So I'll try and do it tonight, Mike. All right. Thank you. You've been watching the Soulestic podcast. This is a little investigation of the human and technology connection and what it's going to look like in maintaining your humanity in the digital age. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys later. Ciao.